My boyfriend and I have been together for 4.5 years. We lived in my hometown for the first 2 years of our relationship, and then he was offered a promotion that would relocate him to a new city about 3 hours from my hometown. I work remotely and I really enjoyed our relationship, so I decided to move to be with him. We've been living out here together for over 2.5 years. For the first 2 years, I didn't have a car, so I would have to rent a car or take the bus back home. Because of that, I didn't really go home too often, but I felt incredibly homesick and alone out here. Working remotely made it hard to make friends organically, and we live in a small town that's 40 minutes from the city, so I just never made friends. I made one friend, but she moved to a new state. Even though I live with my boyfriend, a lot of the time he wants to do his own thing. Scrolling on his phone, playing video games with his friends, going to the gym, and working in an office. I started to feel upset about how I had nothing going for myself in this new place with nobody that I knew and no one to talk to besides him. So I got a dog to keep me company. My dog is great company, but in the back of my mind, I keep wanting to go back to my hometown. I missed my people. I love being around my people, and it's been such a struggle being out here alone. My boyfriend knows how I feel, and he keeps telling me to go visit home more often. I'm a bit shy and introverted, so making friends is more of a challenge for me to do on my own. I ask him to come to events with me so we can mingle with people, but he doesn't want to do those things with me, so I end up not going. I know I shouldn't depend on him for everything, but it's so difficult. We've gotten into so many fights about nothing and everything. There have been a lot of times when I think about breaking up, but then we make up. Breaking up has consistently been on my mind for the last 2 years. I've told him I don't want to be his girlfriend for more than 4 years because that's wasting my time, since I wanted to get married and settle down. The 4-year mark came and passed, and there have been no talks of marriage. But the more I think about it, I don't know if I want to marry him anymore. I had planned to give him until the end of the year and then leave in December if he didn't propose. This past week, I found out that I'm pregnant, and I feel like I've been on a roller coaster of emotions. I was so happy. Then I started to think about the situation we have, and I'm starting to feel like this isn't right. This was not the way I wanted my timeline to go. I would have preferred to be married or engaged before adding a child to the equation. But the biggest issue for me is that we have no village here. I've always wanted to raise my kids around their aunts, uncles, and cousins, my family and friends. I know postpartum is absolutely tough, and the risk of postpartum depression is there. I feel that being out here in a town where I have no friends or family will most likely affect me negatively. I'm genuinely so scared of having a child already, but the thought of doing it alone, with no support that I can easily go to, sounds like a really bad idea. I keep thinking about how my boyfriend was not helpful at all when I first got my dog. He was a puppy at the time, and I almost had a mental breakdown. I keep thinking that a newborn will be the most stressful time of my life. I don't know if I could handle that in this town without my support system. I talked with my boyfriend about moving back to my hometown before the baby is born, and he hates the idea. He says he can't because his job isn't remote like mine. He says he hates my hometown. He wants to be able to keep his guns and wouldn't be able to do that back in that state. He says when the baby is born, his mom, who's retired, will come and stay with us for a few months. I like his mom, but I don't know her that well, and I want my own mom. I'll be in such a vulnerable state, and I don't want someone else's mom around me. She also gets paranoid about things, and I don't want that energy around me. His next compromise was that we travel frequently with the newborn to my hometown whenever I need the support. I really hate this idea too, because that just sounds unsafe for a newborn to be on 3-hour road trips so many times. And hauling everything around? Infants can suffocate in car seats, so doing this so many times is out of the question. His next compromise was that he'd be willing to live in my hometown for 2 to 3 years maximum, and then move. I'm leaning more towards this, but the more I think about it, the more I feel like this isn't something I want to compromise on. I want to move back to my hometown and be with my support system. I want my kids raised around friends and family. I never got that experience. As refugees, we're all displaced in different countries. We only have our immediate family. I want my kids to really know my family, not just through phone calls or annual visits. So now I'm just thinking that we have very different ideas of what family life and community look like. He asked me, how about we move to my hometown? I believe he only said that because he thinks it's unfair for me to want to be around my family and friends and not him. He has said to me many times, forget community. He never wants to go out and make friends with me. His cousin's friend lives a little over 30 minutes away, and he doesn't make an effort to form connections with them. I don't think he cares to build a community or a village here. I'm thinking maybe it's best to have an baby on a living and break up. This isn't working, and we're fooling ourselves to think we can force it to work like this. Either I'm going to be unhappy, or he's going to be unhappy. Right now, it's only us. I don't want to bring another human into our situation. I can't compromise on this. I don't want to compromise on this. I want this baby, but I don't want it like this. I don't want my baby to have a father who lives in a different state. I don't want to raise my child far away from my friends and family. If anyone has been through something similar, what are other ways we can compromise here that we're not thinking about? I just feel like I'm spiraling right now. I don't want to make the wrong decision and mess up my life, my potential child's life, or even his life. I want us to be happy. Now for an update. I'm pregnant. I'm happy about it, but I'm starting to have second thoughts about whether this is the right condition for me. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Sorry to say this, but if he wanted to marry you, he would have. But honestly, why would he have to marry you? You have already proven that what he wants is more important than what you wanted. You seriously need to find someone who will value you and what you want. Comment 2. You two do not want to live in the same place, live your lives the same way, and he obviously does not want to marry you. You are totally incompatible. Whatever you decide to do about your baby, move home, as you sound miserable where you are. Now for the update. A couple of days after finding out I was pregnant, I was at home, scrolling through social media, and honestly feeling super overwhelmed. Like, I was in a bit of a daze. My boyfriend suggested we go to this local food festival to distract ourselves and just try to enjoy the day. I was all for it. We arrived at the festival, and right away I noticed he seemed more interested in checking his phone than talking to me. I mean, I get it, we were both trying to figure stuff out, but could we at least pretend to be present together? While we were at the festival, we ran into his old college buddy, Mark, who was there with his girlfriend. Mark introduced his girlfriend, Sarah. She seemed friendly and complimented my dog, which was nice. The group ended up chatting, and then Mark casually mentioned that he and Sarah were planning to have a baby soon. I could feel my heart drop. My boyfriend, while engaged in this whole conversation, just mentioned how great it would be to have a baby, completely unaware of my concerns. Just wow. After the festival, we got home and I brought up the topic of family and support systems. His response was to suggest we create a family plan. Like what? A family plan? It sounded more like a business proposal than a personal discussion. I was already so frustrated, so I left the living room to take a walk with our dog, just needing space to think. On my walk, I bumped into my neighbor, this single mom, who shared her experiences about raising a kid in a new city. She was super open and honest, and it felt good to talk to someone. A few days later, I got this unexpected text from my mom asking about the pregnancy and whether we were planning to visit soon. Then, she sent this long message about family being important and suggesting we come home for a visit. My heart was all over the place. Later that week, while cleaning out a closet, I found a box of baby clothes from my childhood. It stirred up a lot of memories of my upbringing. That night, I tried to talk to my boyfriend about my childhood and family traditions, hoping we could find some common ground. A few days after that, we visited a local park and ran into Mark and Sarah again. They were discussing their own plans for parenthood. Sarah casually mentioned needing help with babysitting and offered to share tips with me about raising kids. Like thanks, but no thanks. On our way home, my boyfriend suggested having dinner with Mark and Sarah to discuss parenting ideas. I was so irritated. I snapped and expressed my frustration about feeling like an afterthought in all these conversations. He got defensive, claiming he was just trying to prepare for the future. Our argument escalated, and I ended up storming out of the house for a few hours. While I was out, I got a call from my mom, who was upset about not hearing from me. The next day, my boyfriend and I attended this family dinner at his parents' house. Honestly, it felt tense from the start. During dinner, his parents asked about plans for marriage and kids, which just put me on the spot. It was so awkward. On our way back, I overheard my boyfriend talking to his parents about how he wanted to prioritize his job over starting a family. I was just like, wow. After dinner, I confronted him about the conversation. He insisted he was just being realistic. We ended up arguing in the driveway, where he accused me of being dramatic. Then, out of nowhere, I revealed I had been thinking about getting him baby on a living. He just went silent. A few days later, I got news that my childhood friend was getting married and invited me to be a bridesmaid. I decided to attend the wedding, hoping it would give me some clarity. By the end of the night, I got a surprising text from my boyfriend, suggesting we take a break to figure things out. Edit: I took a short break to think everything over. When I returned, my boyfriend and I had a long talk where he admitted he wasn't ready for a family. He suggested we take a break for both of us to figure things out. Fortunately, my childhood friend offered me a place to stay, which made me feel more at home. During this time, I talked with my parents about everything. They were surprised but supportive. They even suggested I take a break from my job and focus on myself. This gave me time to think about whether to stay with my boyfriend or move back home. Am I the idiot for publicly exposing my boyfriend's lies after catching him cheating with a friend? We have been dating for 2 years. A female's name popped up on my boyfriend's phone about a month ago. I asked who it was, and he explained it was his coworker. I asked more about the dynamic, and he basically told me she was a loose acquaintance and described her as a pretty miserable person. He mentioned to me that she told him she broke up with her boyfriend, and she didn't really have any friends, so he was just trying to be there for her. I probably wouldn't have thought much of it, but there had been some minor breaches of trust in the past, as he chose not to disclose important information regarding other women in his life. A few weeks later, I snooped through his messages with her and saw that he had made several comments about her appearance. Planned to hang out with her recently, which he never mentioned to me, and made a comment about taking a nap with her. I screenshotted some of them and confronted him. He told me that he didn't tell me about them hanging out because she had always bailed on him in the past, so he figured she would again. When she didn't, he bailed. However, he texted her multiple times that he was very disappointed they didn't get to hang out. He told me he said these things because she has abandonment issues, and he felt bad for bailing and was afraid that it would send her off the deep end. He said all of the other suggestive comments were just jokes and the kind of friendship they have. In a later conversation, I found out that he deleted more than 50 incriminating messages. Not because he was trying to hide anything, but because he was so mad at himself for being so stupid and saying those things. Now, I can't even see how much more or how much worse the conversation got. I caught him in several lies about the situation as well. I finally got him to admit that he enjoyed the flirting because he hadn't been feeling as wanted by me recently. He had completely owned that he has messed up and said that none of it meant anything. He said that he loves me, will never do this again, and wants to spend the rest of his life with me, and has begged me for another chance. I love him, and he truly is the most kind and generous person I have ever met and treats me so well, which makes this so much harder. I am hurt that he didn't trust me enough to come talk to me, and instead went to another woman. He didn't trust me enough to be honest about the situation when I asked, and now I don't trust him, and am left wondering what else he has lied about in the last 2 years. I want to believe what he's saying and forgive him, but I don't know if I can. Is this something I should try working through? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Don't be naive. He is just telling you what you want to hear. He deleted 50 texts. This is his coworker that he sees. If he is texting those things, what is he saying in person? Don't let him waste any more of your time. Comment 2. No, not in my experience. It will just happen again, and it's no way to live your life. It's miserable. He showed his true colors. I would walk away after 2 years. That is seriously disrespectful. Now for the update. 2 days after the whole social media stalking and confronting him about the other woman, I decided to keep a closer eye on my boyfriend's behavior. I didn't want to have to go all detective on him, but I felt like I had no choice. So I was just being more observant. I noticed he was way more secretive with his phone. Dude would be texting and then suddenly turn his back to me, all casual like, come on, I know when you're trying to hide something. Then, out of nowhere, my boyfriend invites me to a friend's birthday party, saying it's going to be a fun night out. I was like, sure, but I was also kind of on edge. At the party, the unease hit a new level. I spotted the woman from his phone, sitting with a group and laughing like she owned the place. I tried to enjoy the evening, I really did, but I couldn't shake that feeling of unease, especially while watching my boyfriend interact with her. He was just way too attentive, making her laugh and leaning in close while talking. It was like they were the only 2 people in the room. I tried to distract myself by chatting with other friends, but my mind kept drifting back to him. At one point, I excused myself to the bathroom. While washing my hands, I overheard 2 partygoers discussing a special bond between my boyfriend and that other woman. I was like, oh, hell no. I returned to the party and confronted him about his behavior. Of course, he laughed it off, saying they were just being friendly and that I was overreacting. Please. I didn't buy it for a second. The tension between us escalated into a heated argument right there in front of everyone. I was so embarrassed and frustrated that I just stormed out of the party, leaving him behind, of course. The next day, I got a series of texts from him, apologizing left and right and begging me to talk things over. But instead of responding, I decided to investigate further. I visited the woman's social media profile and was hit by a ton of bricks. There were tons of photos of my boyfriend, tagged in posts from various outings. It was clear they had spent a lot of time together without me knowing. So, I decided to confront the woman directly. I found out she worked at a nearby cafe and arranged to meet her there. When we met, the woman seemed surprised to see me, and I didn't waste any time getting to the point. She claimed she thought my boyfriend and I were broken up. Apparently, he had told her we were having issues. I was so done with this. I left the cafe and called my boyfriend, telling him we needed to talk immediately. He agreed to meet me at our favorite restaurant later that evening, and I was ready. When he arrived, I laid out everything I had learned, showing him the photos from social media. His face went pale, and he started scrambling for an explanation, while I just stood there, not moving. I told him I had already spoken to the woman, and he just looked shocked. I laid out my terms. He would end all contact with this woman, or I was walking away for good. He hesitated, saying it was all innocent fun and I was overreacting again. Nope, not this time. I just stood up and left him there at the table while I walked out. Days passed, and I heard nothing from him. I was kind of relieved, honestly. Just as I was beginning to move on, I got a call from the woman, saying my boyfriend was still reaching out to her. I decided to take matters into my own hands and texted the woman back, asking for proof. She sent me screenshots showing my boyfriend making plans to meet up again. That was it for me. I made a plan to expose him. I arranged to meet my boyfriend at a local bar that evening, ready to confront him again. When I arrived, I brought along a couple of friends to witness the confrontation, just in case. As soon as he walked in, I stood up and loudly called him out in front of everyone. The bar went quiet as I detailed his lies and betrayal, leaving him speechless and humiliated. My friends backed me up, and I walked out, leaving him to deal with the fallout. The drama wouldn't end there, but I was ready to face whatever came next. At this point, I'm just exhausted by all of this. He clearly doesn't get it, and I'm so overplaying these stupid games. I don't need this crap in my life, and I shouldn't have to fight for basic respect. Edit. I want to clarify that I didn't just go searching for dirt on my boyfriend out of nowhere. After the incident with the other woman and the party, I felt like I had to protect myself. As for the conversation in the bathroom, I didn't catch their names, but they were mutual friends. I also didn't tell them I was eavesdropping. I just casually asked what they meant later on, which is how I found out about the supposed special bond. My friends who came to the bar with me were completely supportive. They knew how much I had already dealt with and were just there for moral support. Am I the idiot for calling out my husband's lies and refusing to play nice with his meddling family? My husband and I have been together for 7 years, 1 year of which we have been married. We have been relatively similar, sharing the same sense of humor and enjoying the same things. We are super adventurous people. We both have our ups and downs, and whenever there is an issue, we just yell it out or text it out, and we are back to normal within an hour. We typically argue a bit more than other couples, but it's about trivial matters that we both agree to resolve quickly, usually within an hour, often related to educational topics. However, we just moved to North Carolina, and everything was going well until I checked my husband's phone for a picture we both needed. To my surprise, I came across a conversation with his mom where they were both bashing me. I was in awe. My husband recently left his job, and I was worried about our finances, so we were a bit stressed out. The conversation went like this. He criticized me to his mom, and she called me a spoiled jackass. They continued to speak poorly about me, saying how spoiled and how much of a jackass I was. I was shocked, so I stopped reading. There was more, but I was just stunned. For the record, he lied a little to cover himself regarding why he quit his job. He fabricated a story which he later admitted and apologized for, related to me. But while he kept talking, they kept referring to me as the jackass or the spoiled jackass. Although my family is middle class, I wouldn't describe myself as spoiled since I work really hard for everything I have. I am 27 years old and living with Parkinson's disease, something I rarely discuss. I feel very self-conscious about it, so I seldom go out like tonight. But spoiled? I don't think that fits, especially considering that I work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day while he receives bi-weekly checks from his grandma. I am deeply hurt. I didn't know he viewed me as a spoiled jackass or an awful person. I just left the bar we were all hanging out at in Charlotte and took an Uber home. I feel a mix of heartbreak and self-consciousness. Why would he share such lies about me with his mom? It's one thing to vent to his friends, which I don't mind, but to lie and joke that I am a spoiled jackass to his family? What did I do to deserve that? He is begging me to talk, and he sent me a text taking full accountability, but I don't know what to do. I feel awful that people think I am something I'm not. I understand moving is stressful, but why would he say that about me to his family of all people? I know he talks to his friends who he is with now, but that feels different. I would never speak that way about family. Do you have any advice for me? Am I being too sensitive? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Send him home to his mother. Tell him you actually don't need him and can survive quite fine without him. Tell him you love him, but are not desperate enough to be with someone who thinks you are a spoiled jackass. Let him know you will spend this time apart to decide if you want to continue the relationship. He needs to shut up with the apologies. They are just words. What actions is he going to take to make amends? Is he going to tell his mother he lied? Let her know that her calling you names will no longer be tolerated and that she needs to apologize. Is he prepared for you to distance yourself from his mother moving forward, as you don't want to interact with people who think so little of you? Actions speak louder than words. Comment 2. Is it worth saying that I forgot to add that we were nothing moving to North Carolina and under immensely stressful times? He has apologized via text, call, and Snapchat in the past hour. After I read the texts, mind you, I didn't get through it all. I said, "I'm done with you," and just left. I am super disgusted. I never would speak to my family like that. Also, it was mostly his mother calling me names. I mean, he did too, just not as much as her. And him continuing and not sticking up for me was just heart-wrenching, especially since they were lies. I guess I am just venting, but thank you for everything. Now for the update. 2 weeks have gone by since I found the text from my husband that started this whole mess. I've been doing my best to avoid him, not because I want to, but because I just can't deal with it right now. We've been sleeping in separate rooms, which is just awkward. He's tried talking multiple times, but honestly, his apologies just overwhelm me. I know he's genuinely sorry, but the way he's been going about it, it's just not helping. His mom invited us to her place for a family dinner to discuss the whole situation, and I reluctantly agreed to go. I thought maybe it would help clear things up, but I was so not ready for what happened next. So we get to his mom's house, and right away, the vibe is just off. Both our families are there, and it's super awkward. She serves her famous lasagna, which I usually love, but I barely had any. I just couldn't bring myself to eat. My husband tried to lighten the mood with some jokes, but I was just silent. Then his sister tried to share a funny childhood story, and it fell completely flat with me. I just wasn't in the mood for any of it. Out of nowhere, his mom brings up the texts, saying we should all be open and honest. My husband stutters through an explanation, trying to defend what he said, but it just made it worse. I interrupted him because I had to. I told everyone that the words he used weren't just a joke, and I could feel the room getting colder. His dad asked if there was a deeper issue affecting our marriage, and things just escalated from there. His mom sided with him, saying I was being too sensitive, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I stood up and said I needed some fresh air and stepped outside. His mom followed me, trying to get me to come back in. We ended up getting into an argument outside. She kept insisting her son was a good person, and I just felt so unsupported. My husband came outside, clearly frustrated, and asked what we were talking about. His mom expressed her disappointment in me for not accepting his apology, and I felt like I was losing my mind. He tried to calm us down, but it just made things worse. Then I dropped the big news. I told them I overheard a private conversation he had with his mom about our finances. He looked shocked and denied ever discussing our financial struggles with her. I pulled out my phone and played a recording I made accidentally while in the other room. It was him discussing our financial issues and blaming me for our situation. His face went pale, and his mom gasped in disbelief. He stormed off, saying he couldn't believe I would do that. I was done at that point. His mom turned to me, demanding to know why I would record such a private moment. His sister was there too, and she expressed her disbelief, saying that family needs to stick together. I stood my ground and told them I had every right to know what my husband says behind my back. His mom insisted I need to apologize for recording the conversation, but I refused. This led to a full-blown confrontation with her, and I was just over it. My husband came back, looking more upset than ever, and declared he was moving out to think things through. His brother-in-law chimed in, suggesting he take time away to figure out his priorities, and I just wanted to scream. My husband left, slamming the door behind him, and the whole dinner ended awkwardly. His mom was trying to salvage the evening, but there was just no going back. Later that night, I got a text from my husband saying he checked into a hotel and needed space to think. I was kind of relieved he was at least somewhere safe. But then I found out through a shared family group text that his mom was planning an intervention with the entire family. Like, what the heck? His sister suggested we all meet to discuss the issues further. I just don't even know how to deal with all of this right now. Edit. It's been a few days since the dinner at my husband's mom's house, and things have been pretty rough. My husband is still at the hotel, and we haven't talked much. I sent him a message saying I needed space too, and he understood. I didn't expect his family to be so involved in our personal issues, and it's been frustrating. The intervention suggestion was the last straw for me. It made me realize how much they don't respect our boundaries. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.